When she got to the noisy street of Otta, Funke felt this strange mix of feeling of being out of place and somehow safe. She had only been to the city a few times with her friends from university, but now Otta was a getaway spot, a place to start fresh. As the bus pulled into the park, she held her small travel bag close, looking around at the chaotic scene. Sellers were shouting, cars were honking non-stop, but inside her, everything just felt silent. A quietness from all the broken dreams and disappointments. With no family around, and not wanting to bother her friends, she had decided not to explain herself to anyone. The shame of her broken marriage stuck to her like glue. She started thinking, maybe something was wrong with her, maybe it was a curse, or something from her family. Funke stayed in a hotel for a few days, just trying to clear her mind, until she found a small room to rent in a compound. It wasn't fancy, but it was enough. A week after she got there, she found a job as a primary school teacher. The same thing she did back in her hometown. The school was close to her new place. As the days turned into weeks, she started finding comfort in the routine of teaching. Her students, all with bright, curious eyes, made her smile sometimes, even on her darkest days. Her life might have crumbled in ways she never imagined, but in that classroom, she felt some small purpose. But deep down, the pain from her failed marriage still haunted her. The memories of Michael's coldness, his mother's harsh words, and the painful sting of being sent away just wouldn't leave her. Every night, when the neighborhood got quiet, she would replay everything in her mind, wondering where it all went wrong. The emptiness of not having a child, all those years of hoping, this thought just wouldn't let go. Months passed, and while she wasn't exactly happy, she was getting by. Her colleagues at the school were friendly, but she kept her distance, still not ready to share her story. Every day after school, she would walk home through the busy streets, her thoughts drifting back to the life she had left behind. Then one day, something unexpected happened. It was late in the afternoon when Funke finally finished at school. She had stayed longer than usual since there was nothing to rush home for. She heard there was a market nearby, so she decided to take a different route and get something small for dinner. As she walked through the crowded market stalls, scanning for the best vegetables, she heard a voice from behind, a voice she hadn't heard in ages. Funke! She turned, her heart jumping. Right there in the middle of the market was Femi. Femi, her childhood crush. Femi, the one she used to dream of marrying before life took them in different directions. He looked older now. Of course, he still had that familiar warmth in his eyes, and his smile, it was like she had been transported back to those old days. Femi, she whispered, barely believing her eyes. He smiled, and that smile used to melt her heart. Wow, Funke, it's really you. How long has it been? Funke couldn't help but smile back, even with everything she had been through. Too long, she replied, moving closer to him. What are you doing here? I moved back to Otta a few years back, Femi explained. I'm doing art now. It's been rough, but I'm making it work. She looked a bit surprised. She remembered him as the guy who had always had big dreams. They talked a bit, catching up on each other's lives. Femi told her about his art journey and how he moved to the city for better chances, though it hadn't been easy. And you? Femi asked, looking into her eyes. What brings you to Otta? Funke hesitated, not sure how much she wanted to share. I needed a fresh start, she finally said. Things didn't work out the way I thought they would. Femi seemed to get it and didn't push for her to explain more. Instead, he just smiled. I'm really glad to see you, Funke. You've always been special to me. Funke's heart fluttered, and for the first time in a while, she felt that warm feeling she thought was long gone. They exchanged numbers, promising to keep in touch, even though she wasn't sure if she would really call him. Still, as she walked back home that evening, she couldn't stop thinking about him. Seeing someone from her past, someone who had known her so well, felt so good. Days turned into weeks, and Femi kept his word. He would call or text, sometimes asking her to meet up for lunch or a quick drink after work. At first, Funke wasn't sure if she wanted to respond, but over time, she found herself looking forward to it. Femi was kind, understanding, and the best part, he didn't dig into her past. He just enjoyed being with her, which was exactly what she needed. Their connection wasn't romantic, not yet anyway, but it was strong. Femi made her feel seen in a way Michael never had. One evening, after a rough day at school, Femi invited her to his small apartment. They sat on the floor, sharing a simple meal of rice and stew, laughing about the crazy things they used to do as kids. For those few hours, Funke almost forgot the heartache that had weighed her down. As the night got late, their conversation took a more serious turn. Femi opened up about his struggles as an artist, how hard it had been to make ends meet, and how often he questioned if he had made the right choice. Funke too found herself talking more about her failed marriage than she intended. She told him about Michael, the pressure from his family, the years of trying for a child, and how it fell apart, leaving her broken. I don't even know what I was thinking, she said, her voice breaking. I thought we would have a life together, have kids, be happy, but in the end, I was blamed for everything. Femi reached out and held her hand gently. I'm sorry, Funke. You deserve better than that. They sat quietly for a moment, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Then almost naturally, something shifted between them. Maybe it was a vulnerability they had shared, or maybe it was just a connection that had always been there. But before Funke could think too much, Femi leaned in and kissed her. At first, the kiss was soft, like they were both testing the waters. But then, it deepened, and Funke felt all those emotions she hadn't allowed herself to feel for a long time. The kiss quickly turned into something more, something they both knew was bound to happen, yet unexpected. That night, Funke and Femi shared a closeness she hadn't felt in ages. It was sweet, emotional, filled with a warmth she thought was lost forever. What had she done? She was still married to Michael, even if their marriage was over. And beyond that, she always saw herself as a person of morals, someone who held her values high. Yet, here she was, lying next to a man who wasn't her husband, feeling all mixed up. She felt really bad. She got dressed quietly, trying not to wake Femi, and slipped out as the city began to come alive. Her mind was racing. Had she made a huge mistake? But in the days that followed, a new problem showed up, one she could never have imagined. Funke started feeling sick. At first, she thought it was just stress from work, but when the nausea wouldn't stop, she went to get a pregnancy test. Her hands shook as she waited for the result. When the test came back positive, her world literally stopped. She stared at the tiny test stick, her heart pounding. She was pregnant. Pregnant? After all those years of trying with Michael, after all the disappointment and sadness, here she was, pregnant after just one night with Femi. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was what she had always wanted, wasn't it? A child of her own. But the circumstances were all wrong. She wasn't married anymore, and the father of the child was Femi. Comment continue to find out what happens next, and please subscribe to support the channel. Thank you.